Mom chose my step-siblings over me and demanded to share my deceased dad's college fund or move out in a week. Some backstory before I get into what happened. I'm a 17-year-old girl living with my mother, 43F, my stepdad, and my two step-siblings. My stepbrother, Jackson, is a year older than me, and my stepsister, Emma, is 2 years younger. Although we attend the same high school, we don't share any friends or a close relationship. My mother married my stepfather 3 years ago after dating him for 5 years, but we've lived together for 6 years, so the wedding was just a formality. My father passed away when I was very young, so I barely remember him. My parents were never married because my dad's family disapproved of my mother, labeling her as irresponsible and not suited for their son. My dad was diagnosed with late-stage leukemia when he was just 27. By the time it was discovered, it was too late for treatment. Despite his illness, my dad made sure to set up an education fund for me before he passed away. He wanted me to have financial security and not depend on my mother, who didn't have a stable income back then. I've always known about this fund, which is controlled by his lawyer until I turn 18, at which point I'll have full control over it. For most of my childhood, it was just me and my mother. But when I was 8, my stepfather came into our lives. Shortly after, we moved in with him and his kids. My mother said it was too painful to stay in the town where she had lived with my dad, so we left. I've never met my dad's parents because they weren't interested in staying connected to me. Occasionally, we visit my maternal grandparents, who are kind but not very involved in our lives. When we moved in with my stepdad, I hoped for a sense of belonging. I envisioned having a big, loving family, but reality didn't meet my expectations. My stepdad and his children weren't unkind, but they weren't warm or welcoming either. Attempts to bond were met with indifference, and after months of trying, I gave up. It became clear that while we shared a house, we weren't a family. My step-siblings treated my mom like part of their family, but I was always an afterthought. Looking back, I suspect that my stepdad's previous marriage influenced their behavior. His ex-wife was reportedly a gold digger who abandoned him and their kids, leaving him financially drained. My mother, being the opposite of his ex, was probably a breath of fresh air for him. But I, being her daughter, didn't fit into their picture of a new, perfect family. Although I told myself I might be overthinking their treatment of me, deep down, I felt excluded. The resentment grew as I watched my mother thrive in this dynamic while I was left on the sidelines. I kept my feelings to myself, not wanting to appear petty, but it was difficult. Fast forward to a few days ago. As a senior in high school, I've been busy researching colleges and preparing applications. I've always assumed the education fund my dad left me would cover my expenses. But my mother approached me with a surprising request. She explained that my stepfather hadn't saved enough for Jackson and Emma to attend college and asked if I could share my college fund with them. Jackson, having taken a gap year, was set to start college the same time as me. Legally, my mother has no control over the fund. My dad's will ensured that only I could decide how the money would be used once I turn 18. I didn't hesitate to say no. I don't see Jackson or Emma as family, and the fund is my dad's legacy meant for me. Even if I didn't use all the money for college, it could help me get started in life, like renting my own apartment after graduation. My mother called me selfish, and I didn't deny it. I admitted that I wasn't willing to sacrifice my future for step-siblings who had never treated me as family. This honesty enraged her, and she accused me of being ungrateful and cruel. Her reaction was hypocritical. She had never cared about how they treated me, yet expected me to treat them as family without question. She gave me an ultimatum: share the fund or move out within a week. She reminded me that once I turned 18, she'd no longer be legally obligated to let me live at home. Her words hurt deeply. Feeling betrayed, I decided to leave, reaching out to friends for help. They were incredibly supportive, and one offered to let me stay with them until I turned 18. I've since finalized plans to move in with a friend's cousin once college starts. The hostility at home has only confirmed my decision. My step-siblings and stepdad now ignore me entirely, treating me as if I'm invisible. It's humiliating, but I'm focused on my future. Before leaving, I told my mother exactly how I felt. I made it clear that I was done trying to fit into a family that didn't want me. I packed my belongings and moved in with my friend, cutting all ties with my mother and stepfamily. Since then, I've shared my story online, detailing everything my mother said and did. The post gained traction, and my mother's friends reached out, criticizing her behavior. My mother has since tried to contact me, accusing me of ruining her reputation. She even claimed my father would be ashamed of me, but I see these as manipulative tactics. I've blocked her and intend to focus on building a life where I'm surrounded by people who genuinely care about me. This experience has been painful, but it's also been empowering. I've learned to stand up for myself and set boundaries. As I prepare to start college and move into my new apartment, I'm determined to leave this chapter behind and embrace the future with hope and resilience.